I've been a long-haul truck driver for almost 12 years. You learn patterns out there. You learn which stops feel safe, which towns go quiet too early, and which roads make you keep one hand tighter on the wheel. This happened when I was running a night load through a stretch of highway I'd driven 100 times. Same two-lane road, same endless trees, same weak radio stations that fade in and out like someone breathing. It was a little after 1 a.m. when I saw her. At first, she looked like a reflection. A pale shape on the shoulder, standing just beyond my headlights. I almost dismissed it as a road sign. But then she moved, just a small step forward, and I caught the outline of a person. A woman. She was facing the road, arms held close to her body like she was cold. No car nearby. No hazard lights. No house lights in the distance. Just trees, black sky, and my truck rumbling through the night. I eased off the gas without thinking. That part of the highway had a reputation for deer, and sometimes people did break down out there. I leaned forward, squinting. She looked wrong. Not injured. Not frantic. Just still. Like she'd been standing there for a long time. My CB was quiet. The radio was static. The only sound was the tires on asphalt and the steady growl of the engine. As I got closer, she lifted her head. Her face was bright in the headlights, too bright. Her skin looked like it didn't belong outside at night. Like it was catching light that wasn't there. I passed her without stopping. My gut told me to keep going. But the second she disappeared behind my mirrors, I felt something drop in my stomach. That deep, sick feeling you get when you realize you left something important behind. I checked my side mirror. She was still there, smaller now in the distance, but she was watching me. And for a second, I thought she raised her hand. Not waving. Pointing. I shook it off, told myself it was nothing. Then I looked ahead and almost slammed my brakes. She was there again. Right in front of my truck, standing on the shoulder at the next mile marker, in the same exact posture. Same pale face. Same stillness. My whole body went cold. That shouldn't have been possible. I hadn't turned. There were no intersections. And there was no way anyone could have gotten ahead of me that fast on foot. I gripped the wheel so hard my hands hurt. As I passed her again, I didn't look. I stared straight ahead and kept my speed steady, like if I ignored her, she'd stay behind me. A mile later, my headlights swept over her again. Same woman. Same spot. Same stance. My throat tightened. My mouth went dry like I'd been breathing dust. I started talking out loud to myself, not even realizing I was doing it. Nope, no. I'm not doing this. I grabbed my phone, trying to bring up the GPS. The screen lit up my cab. My blue dot crawled along a thin line of highway. And then the GPS voice, calm and cheerful, said something that made my blood freeze. In 0.2 miles, you will arrive at your destination. My destination was 3 hours away. I stared at the screen. The map had zoomed in on a single point. Mile marker 14. That was where I'd first seen her. My blue dot kept moving forward, but the GPS kept insisting I was arriving at mile marker 14 again and again, like the road was looping. I looked at the mile sign ahead. I actually yelled. A short, sharp sound that startled even me. I felt panic rising in my chest, making it hard to breathe. I pulled my eyes to the mirrors, half expecting to see her inside the trailer, clinging to the back like a spider. Nothing. I forced myself to keep driving. My mind raced. Maybe I'd missed a turn. Maybe I'd been driving in circles without realizing it. But the highway was dead straight. Then something hit the side of my truck. Not a car. Not debris. It sounded like a hand slapping metal. Once, twice, 3 times. Right behind my driver's seat. I froze. My shoulders went tight. The sound came again, slow, deliberate taps, as if someone was walking alongside me and knocking to get my attention. I kept my eyes locked forward. I didn't want to look at the window. I didn't want to see a pale face inches away in the darkness. The tapping stopped. For a few seconds, there was only the road noise again. Then my CB radio crackled to life. A voice came through, weak and broken, like it was fighting to be heard. "Driver, stop." I stared at the CB like it had grown teeth. I hadn't heard a voice on it in over an hour. And the tone, it sounded like the woman. "Driver, stop." My hands shook. I reached up and turned the volume down, like quieting it would make it less real. The voice came again, louder. "Stop. Let me in." I swallowed hard, eyes burning. My vision was starting to blur, like my brain didn't want to process any more of this. And then I saw her again. But this time, she wasn't on the shoulder. She was in the road. Right in my lane. I slammed the brakes, the trailer jerking behind me. Tires screamed. The cab rocked. My seatbelt bit into my chest. And she didn't move. She just stood there, staring straight at me. I stopped a few feet from her. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might pass out. The headlights lit her fully now. She was smiling. Not a normal smile. Too wide. Too calm. Like she was happy I'd finally listened. I locked the doors with shaking fingers. Then I noticed something. Her eyes weren't looking at me. They were looking past me. At the passenger seat. I turned my head, slow, terrified. The passenger seat was empty. But the air around it looked wrong. Like heat rising off pavement. A faint distortion, like something was sitting there but refusing to be seen. A soft voice whispered inside the cab, not from the CB. "Don't stop again." My blood ran cold. I jerked my head back to the road. The woman was closer now. No footsteps. No movement. Just closer. Her hand lifted and pressed against my windshield. Her palm was smeared with something dark, like wet dirt or dried blood. She mouthed words silently. I couldn't hear her, but I could read her lips. "It's your turn." I don't know what snapped me out of it. Instinct, maybe? Pure fear. I hit the gas. The truck lurched forward. And she was gone. Not hit. Not thrown aside. Just gone, like she'd never been there at all. The GPS suddenly corrected itself, the route stretching forward normally again. Mile markers went to 15, 16, 17. I didn't stop until the sun was up and I was surrounded by other people at a busy truck stop. I told myself it was exhaustion. Hallucinations. Something. But when I got out to check my rig, my knees almost gave out. On the driver's side of my trailer, at the exact height of a person's hand, there were 5 dusty prints. Like someone had been walking beside me for miles, resting their palm on the metal as they kept up. And on my windshield, right in front of my face, there was a single handprint, dark, smeared, and perfectly clear. I scrubbed it for 20 minutes. It wouldn't come off. Not until I drove away. And even now, every time I pass mile marker 14 on that highway, My GPS still whispers, "You have arrived." When you're driving at night, the headlights behind you become a kind of company. You get used to them. Sometimes you even feel safer knowing someone else is out there with you. That's what I thought, until the night a single set of headlights followed me for over 3 hours without ever passing. I was hauling refrigerated goods, late schedule, and trying to make time. It was winter, and the road was slick in places. The sky was low and cloudy, and the moon looked like it was trapped behind dirty glass. Around 11:30 p.m., I noticed a pickup truck behind me. Old model. 2 headlights. No fog lights. No fancy LED beams. Just normal lights, steady and warm. At first, I didn't think anything of it. A lot of guys will hang behind a semi on dark roads because it helps them see and because the truck breaks wind. But after about 40 minutes, the pickup still hadn't passed. I could see it in my mirrors the whole time. It stayed the same distance, no matter what speed I went. I slowed down a little to encourage it to go around. It didn't. I sped up. It matched me. I changed lanes when the highway widened, giving it a clean opening. It stayed behind me like it was tied to my trailer. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe the driver was tired. Maybe they were being cautious. Then I noticed something else. The pickup's headlights didn't bounce. If you've driven enough, you know headlights always jitter a little. Road bumps. Small dips. A human driver adjusting. Even a smooth ride has some movement. These lights stayed perfectly level. Like they were mounted on a camera rig. Like the truck was gliding instead of driving. I turned the radio up, trying to distract myself. A talk station faded in and out. I caught bits of someone discussing weather warnings. Then the radio cut to a brief silence. And a voice came through, low and close, as if it was speaking directly into my ear. "Don't slow down." I stiffened. The radio wasn't on a station that played voices like that. And the tone, it wasn't like an announcer. It was urgent. Personal. I slapped the dial, switching stations. Music blasted. I breathed out. Maybe I'd imagined it. But the pickup was still there. After another hour, the highway thinned out. Trees closed in. Fewer exits. Fewer lights. Just long stretches of nothing. That's when the pickup moved closer. It didn't speed up like a normal vehicle. It just appeared nearer in my mirrors like someone had edited reality and dragged it forward. The headlights filled my side mirrors now. Bright enough to flash against the chrome. My shoulders tightened. I flicked my trailer lights, a polite warning. The pickup didn't back off. And then I noticed something that made my skin crawl. There was no driver silhouette. Usually you can see a head shape, a little movement behind the windshield. In the pickup, the cab looked empty. Just darkness. The headlights were the only thing that looked alive. I reached for my CB, hoping there was someone else on the channel. I called out. "Any drivers around mile?" "I don't know, 62. Got a pickup riding my tail." Static. Then a short burst of noise, like someone keying a mic without speaking. I tried again. "Pickup behind the white reefer, you okay back there?" Static again. Then a voice, thin and crackling. "Keep it steady." It wasn't a trucker voice. Too soft. Too old. "Who is this?" I asked. The voice didn't answer. The channel went dead. I started watching the pickup in my mirrors like it was a predator. When the road curved, its headlights didn't shift correctly with the turn. They stayed aligned with me, as if the pickup wasn't actually on the road but hanging behind my trailer like a lantern in the dark. My heart pounded harder. Finally, I spotted a well-lit rest area sign. I figured if I pulled in, the pickup would either pass or follow, and either way, I'd know what I was dealing with. I took the exit. The rest area was brighter than the highway, but still mostly empty. A few cars parked. A couple of semis. Vending machines humming in the distance. I pulled into a spot near the lights and kept the engine running. I watched the ramp in my side mirror. The pickup didn't exit. It stayed on the highway. Its headlights slid past the entrance like it never existed. I let out a shaky breath. Relief hit so hard I almost laughed. Then my mirrors caught movement. 2 headlights appeared behind me. Inside the rest area. The pickup had somehow entered without taking the exit. It rolled slowly along the line of parked trucks, moving toward me. My mouth went dry. I locked my doors, though they already were. I grabbed my phone, thumb hovering over emergency call. The pickup stopped directly behind my trailer. The headlights flooded the back of my cab, turning my sleeper into a bright, sickly glow. And still, no driver silhouette. Then the horn blared. A long, deep blast. My whole cab vibrated. I jumped so hard my knee hit the steering column. The horn stopped. Silence settled. I stared into my mirrors, breathing fast, fogging the glass. The pickup's driver's side door opened. Slowly. And something stepped out. Not a person. It was tall, too tall. It unfolded like it had too many joints. Its shape was wrong, like a shadow trying to stand upright. It moved toward my trailer, not toward my cab. And I realized with a sick twist of fear. It wasn't interested in me. It was interested in what I was hauling. I grabbed the horn and laid on it, blasting as loud as I could. Nearby trucks stayed still. No doors opened. No lights flicked on. It was like my sound didn't exist. The thing reached my trailer doors. I saw it lift an arm, long and thin, and touch the latch. Then the inside of my trailer light flickered, like something had turned it on from within. That made no sense. I didn't have remote access. The reefer unit was locked down. But the light was on, shining through tiny cracks around the doors. Something was moving inside. I sat frozen, realizing the worst thought of all. What if something had been in my trailer the entire time? What if the pickup wasn't following me? What if it was escorting me? The thing at the doors tilted its head, listening. Then, without turning around, it spoke. In a voice that sounded like a radio tuned between stations, it said, "Almost delivered." I slammed the truck into gear and pulled forward. The trailer jerked, and the pickup's headlights swung as I turned out of the spot. I didn't care if I hit a curb. I didn't care if I damaged freight. I just wanted out. As I sped out of the rest area, I glanced back. The pickup wasn't chasing me. It was parked. And the thing was still at my trailer doors, as calm as someone checking their mail. The last thing I saw before the trees swallowed the rest area was the trailer light shining brighter, like the doors had opened. I didn't stop until I reached my delivery point at dawn. When I opened my trailer with the dock worker, the refrigerated air poured out like fog. The pallets were there. Everything looked normal. But near the very back, hidden behind the last row, there was a muddy footprint on the metal floor. one single print. Long, narrow, with too many toes. And smeared beside it, as if someone had dragged fingers through frost, were the words, "Keep it steady." There are two kinds of roadside help out there. The kind you call, and the kind that shows up even when you didn't ask. This was back when I was still driving older equipment. I had a truck that ran fine most days, but every now and then it would throw a problem just to remind you it could. I was on a late run through rural backroads, one of those shortcuts dispatch swears is faster. It wasn't. It was just darker, lonelier, and filled with sharp turns that made the trailer groan. Around 2:40 a.m., I felt the steering go heavy. The wheel stiffened, like the truck suddenly weighed twice as much. The dashboard lit up with a warning I hadn't seen before. Then the engine sputtered. I guided the rig onto the shoulder and stopped. Silence hit so hard it felt like pressure in my ears. No traffic. No wind. Just my engine ticking as it cooled. I called dispatch. No signal. I tried again. Nothing. I climbed down with a flashlight, breath fogging in the cold, and did a quick walk around. Tires looked okay. No obvious leaks. But something smelled off, like burning rubber mixed with old pennies. I got back in the cab and tried turning the key. The engine coughed once. Then nothing. And that's when I saw the lights. Orange and white flashing in the distance behind me. A tow truck. A wrecker. It came around the bend slow, lights turning the trees into blinking shapes. Relief hit me. Real relief. Because out there, stuck on a dead road at night, any sign of help feels like a lifeline. The wrecker pulled in behind me and stopped. But the driver didn't get out. I waited. I expected the guy to come up and ask what happened, maybe crack a joke. Nothing. The lights kept flashing. The cab stayed dark. I leaned out my window and waved my flashlight. "Hey! Appreciate you stopping!" Still nothing. I climbed down again. As soon as my boots hit the ground, I felt that same wrongness in the air. The quiet wasn't natural. It was like the woods were holding their breath. I walked back toward the wrecker. Its paint looked old, but not in a normal worn way. More like it was, faded unevenly. Like the color had been drained out in streaks. The company name on the door was smudged. I couldn't read it. I shined my flashlight through the windshield. No driver. The seat was empty. I stepped closer, heart starting to thump harder. Maybe the guy had gotten out and was around the back. I moved along the side. The air smelled like wet soil. Then, near the rear wheel well, I saw something that made me stop cold. A handprint. Pressed into the dirt on the side of the wrecker. But it wasn't human. The fingers were too long, the palm too wide, as if something with a stretched hand had leaned on it. A creak sounded behind me. I spun around. My truck's passenger door was open. I hadn't left it open. I ran back toward my cab, panic surging. As I got close, I heard something inside. A faint shuffling sound. Like someone moving around in the sleeper. I froze at the steps. My flashlight beam shook. "Hello?" I called out, voice weak. The shuffling stopped. Then I heard a slow exhale. A breath, long and tired, like someone had been holding it for a while. I backed away from the steps, every nerve screaming. My eyes flicked to the wrecker behind me. Its lights were still flashing. And now, the wrecker's driver door was open. It hadn't been before. I could see the dark interior clearly. Still no one. Then the CB inside my truck crackled. I didn't have it turned on. But it crackled anyway, and a voice pushed through. "Hook it!" I stared at my cab like it had betrayed me. "Hook it," the voice said again. "Let it tow you." My blood went cold. Because the voice didn't sound like a dispatcher or a tow operator. It sounded like it was speaking from underwater. I took a step back, glancing between my truck and the wrecker. The wrecker's boom arm shifted. Slowly. Metal groaned as it lifted, like it was waking up. There were no hydraulic sounds. No engine running. Just the boom moving on its own. The hook swung slightly, then steadied, aiming toward my trailer like a finger pointing. I turned and ran back toward my cab. I didn't care about the engine anymore. I didn't care about rules. I just wanted in and locked away from whatever this was. I climbed in, slammed the door, locked it, and grabbed my phone again. No service. The CB crackled louder now, the voice more urgent. "Hook it! Hook it! Hook it!" Each "hook it" came faster, like someone chanting. Then the sleeper curtain behind me moved. Just a little. Like something had brushed it from the other side. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. A low tapping started on my passenger window. 3 taps. Then 3 more. Like someone trying to be polite. I forced myself to look. On the other side of the glass, inches away, was a face. But it wasn't a person's face. It was pale and stretched, like skin pulled too tight over bone. The eyes were dark, reflecting my dash lights like pits. And it was smiling. That smile made me feel like prey. The mouth moved, silent at first. Then my CB translated it in that watery voice. "Let me tow you." My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. I slammed my palm on the horn, blasting it. Nothing changed. The face didn't flinch. The boom arm behind me lurched again, and I felt my trailer shift slightly, like the hook had latched on. A hard tug ran through the frame. It was connecting. I threw the truck into neutral and cranked the key again, desperate. The engine coughed. Once. Then again. The lights flickered. The face outside the window twitched, like it didn't like that. I cranked again. The engine roared to life. The moment it started, the wrecker's lights stopped flashing. Just off. Like someone flipped a switch. The face outside my window vanished, as if it stepped back into the darkness. I didn't waste a second. I shoved it into gear and pulled forward. The trailer dragged for half a second, like something still held it, then it released with a loud metallic snap. I sped down that road, not looking back, hands wide on the wheel. After about 10 minutes, I hit a stretch where my phone suddenly showed 1 bar of signal. I called dispatch immediately. They answered like nothing was wrong. I told them what happened, tried to explain about the wrecker. There was a pause on the line. Then dispatch said, "There's no wrecker company in that county. None at all. We've checked. Closest one is 40 miles away." When I finally reached a lit highway and pulled into a safe truck stop, I got out and checked my trailer. The back was intact. Doors locked. Seal still in place. But along the lower frame, near where a hook would grab, there was fresh scraped metal. And wrapped around the frame, like someone had tied it there, was a short length of tow chain. Old, rusted, and cold to the touch. I threw it away. But the next morning, when I checked under my trailer again. The chain was back. I don't pick up hitchhikers. Most drivers don't. You can lose your job, get robbed, or worse. But there are nights when you're tired, lonely, and you tell yourself one ride won't hurt. That's what I told myself the night I picked up a man in a gray hoodie outside a truck stop that looked half abandoned. It was around midnight. Rain had been coming down steady, turning the lot into a black mirror. The neon sign buzzed like a dying insect. Inside, the cashier looked bored and didn't make eye contact. I had just fueled up and was heading back out when I saw him, standing near the edge of the lot, away from the lights. He didn't wave. He didn't flag me down. He just stood there, facing the road, like he was waiting for something that wasn't me. I would have ignored him, but then I saw how thin he was. How his shoulders shook from the cold. No jacket, just that hoodie soaked dark with rain. I rolled my window down a few inches. "You okay?" He turned his head slowly. His face was half in shadow. The part one could see looked pale and tired. His eyes were dark, but not in a scary way, more like someone who hadn't slept in a long time. "I just need a ride," he said softly. "Where to?" I asked. He pointed down the road. "Just a few miles." I hesitated. Every warning bell in my head rang. But the rain, the empty lot, the way he stood there like he'd been there forever. I unlocked the door. He climbed in without thanking me. Without even looking at me. He just sat in the passenger seat and stared straight ahead. The cab filled with the smell of wet clothes and something else, like old smoke. I pulled out, telling myself I'd drop him at the next exit. That's what I always told myself in these situations. For the first few minutes he didn't speak. I tried. "You from around here?" No answer. "You got family nearby?" Nothing. He didn't even blink much. Just stared ahead, rain streaking across the windshield like scratches. I told myself he was shy. Or tired. Or maybe he didn't trust me either. But then I noticed something. His clothes weren't dripping onto the seat. His hoodie looked soaked, but the fabric beneath him stayed dry. No water on the floor mat. It was like the rain on him wasn't real. My throat tightened. I glanced at him again. He wasn't breathing. Not that I could see. His chest didn't rise. His shoulders didn't shift. And yet he was sitting there like a normal person. I gripped the wheel harder. The road ahead was empty, the kind of empty that makes you feel like you're the only thing moving in the world. After about 10 minutes, he finally spoke. "I don't like this road." His voice was quiet, but it cut through the cab like a knife. I tried to keep my tone casual. "It's fine. Just takes us to the highway." He turned his head toward me. And I swear, the inside of the cab got colder. "Don't stop," he said. I forced a laugh. "Wasn't planning to." He looked forward again. "Whatever you do, don't stop." The way he said it made my stomach clench. A few miles later, I saw flashing lights ahead. A police car. Parked on the shoulder. Relief hit me. Finally, another human presence. I slowed down, thinking maybe the officer had someone pulled over, or maybe I could even ask about the hitchhiker situation. The man's hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. His grip was icy. Not just cold, unnatural. Like grabbing a frozen metal pipe in winter. I gasped and jerked, almost swerving. "Don't," he whispered. I stared at him. What the hell? He leaned closer, eyes wide now. That's not police. I looked again. The cruiser was facing the wrong direction for a traffic stop. And the lights, they flashed too smoothly, like a looped pattern. Red, blue, perfectly timed. No one stood outside. No other car pulled over. Just the cruiser with its lights painting the trees. My foot hovered over the brake. My mind screamed to stop, to check, to be safe. But his grip tightened. I drove past. As my headlights swept the cruiser, my stomach dropped. There was no driver inside. The front seat was empty. And in the back seat, something pale sat upright, head tilted, watching the road. Not a person. Something that looked like a person from far away, but wrong up close. It had a long neck and a face that looked stretched, like skin pulled over a skull. It turned as I passed, following me with its eyes. I felt my whole body go numb. In my mirror, I saw the cruiser's lights shift. The car pulled out. And it followed us. No siren. Just the flashing lights and steady approach. The man beside me whispered, "It wants you to stop." My hands shook. "What is it?" He didn't answer. He just stared ahead, jaw clenched. The cruiser closed in. Lights filled my mirrors, reflecting off everything. Then my CB radio crackled, again, even though I hadn't turned it on. A cheerful voice came through, too bright, too normal. "Driver, pull over. Safety check." I stared at the CB like it was possessed. The voice repeated, "Driver, pull over." The man beside me leaned close, voice shaking now. "If you stop, it takes you. That's what it does." My throat felt tight. "How do you know?" He finally looked at me fully. And in the dim dash light, I saw something that made my heart sink. There were faint bruises around his neck. Like finger marks. Like someone had dragged him out of a cab before. "I stopped," he said quietly. "Last time." My blood ran cold. "Last time?" He didn't explain. The cruiser was closer now, nearly tailgating. The police voice on the CB changed slightly, losing its cheerful tone. "Pull over," the man whispered. "Faster." I pressed the accelerator. The truck surged forward, engine groaning. The cruiser matched. It shouldn't have. A cruiser shouldn't keep up on that wet road at that speed. But it did. The flashing lights became a strobe, filling my cab like a nightmare. Then the man did something I'll never forget. He reached over and opened the passenger door. Wind and rain exploded inside, yanking at everything. "What are you doing?" I shouted. He looked at me, expression calm and sad. "It's not after me," he said. Then he leaned out. And he let go. The moment he fell, the cruiser's lights shut off. The car swerved, like it changed its mind instantly, and pulled over to the shoulder where he landed, too smoothly, too controlled. I didn't stop. I couldn't. I drove until the sky started to lighten. At the next truck stop, I called 911. My voice shook so bad the operator asked me twice to repeat myself. State troopers came. They took my statement. They searched the stretch of road. They found nothing. No body. No cruiser. No skid marks. One trooper asked me, "Are you sure you didn't fall asleep at the wheel?" I insisted. I described the man, the bruises, the hoodie. The trooper's face changed slightly. He walked away, spoke quietly with another officer, then came back. He asked, "Did the man have Marks on his neck? I nodded. He stared at me for a long moment and said, A trucker reported a hitchhiker like that 3 months ago. Same description. Same road. I swallowed hard. What happened? The trooper hesitated. The trucker pulled over when he saw a cruiser behind him. He disappeared. Truck was found running on the shoulder. Door open. I felt my skin crawl. I asked, So who was the man? The trooper didn't answer. He just looked down the road, like he didn't want to. That night, when I finally slept, I dreamed of a wet highway and flashing lights. And in the dream, a cheerful voice on the CB kept repeating, Driver, pull over. But this time, the voice sounded exactly like me. Some truckers collect stories like souvenirs. Most of them are harmless. Odd folks at rest stops, strange towns, weird signs in the middle of nowhere. This one is different. This is the only story I have that I don't like telling, because every time I talk about it, it feels like I'm inviting it back. I was driving a late-night run through a wide-open desert highway. Flat land, distant mountains, and a sky full of stars that made you feel small. Around 3:15 a.m., my radio started acting up. It wasn't unusual. In remote areas, stations fade and overlap. You get static, you get fragments of songs, you get weird talk shows. But this time, the radio landed on a station I'd never heard before. No music. No ads. Just a man's voice, calm and steady, like a late-night host. And now, the voice said, we're going to share a story for our driver tonight. I frowned. Driver tonight? I muttered. The voice continued, smooth as if it was reading from a script. Our driver is alone. He's been on the road for 9 hours. He's tired, but he won't stop yet. My stomach tightened. That was accurate. Too accurate. I reached for the dial, but my hand paused. The voice went on. He's thinking about stopping at the next rest area, but he shouldn't. Cold prickled up my arms. I looked at the road ahead. There was a rest area sign in the distance, glowing green. The voice chuckled softly. He doesn't like being watched. I turned the radio off. Silence filled the cab, heavy and thick. I breathed out slowly, trying to steady myself. Then the radio turned back on. Same station. Same voice. He turned me off. The voice said, amused. That's okay. My heart slammed against my ribs. I snapped, What the hell is this? The voice responded immediately, like it heard me. This is for you, it said. Keep your eyes on the road. I stared at the dash, throat dry. Who are you? The voice ignored the question. Don't stop at the rest area. The rest area sign passed overhead. I didn't take it. The voice sounded pleased. Good. I forced a laugh that came out shaky. This is some prank. Right? You got a transmitter? The voice sighed. Zohaib Khalid. My hands went numb. That was my name. No one on the road knew my name. I hadn't said it on the CB. It wasn't printed on the outside of my truck. Not like that. And even if someone saw my paperwork, they wouldn't be on my radio. The voice repeated it slowly, like tasting it. Zohaib Khalid. I swallowed hard. My mouth felt like paper. How do you know that? I whispered. The voice lowered, becoming intimate, like it was leaning close. Because you're not the first driver I've spoken to, it said. And you won't be the last. A faint sound rose under the voice, like distant breathing, like a room full of people listening. I turned the volume down. The breathing stayed, low beneath everything, like it wasn't coming from the speaker. Like it was inside the cab. I glanced at the passenger seat. Empty. But the air over it looked strange, like a faint shimmer. Like heat haze. The voice continued. In a moment you'll see headlights behind you. Don't look in the mirror. I felt a jolt of panic. My eyes flicked toward the mirrors on instinct. The highway behind me was empty. Then, as if the voice had summoned them, 2 headlights appeared in my rearview mirror. Far away at first. Then closer. Too fast. I clenched my jaw and forced myself not to look for long, but it was impossible not to see. The lights grew larger, closing distance like they were attached to my truck with an invisible rope. The voice said, Don't let it pass. My heart pounded. What is it? The voice didn't answer. It just repeated, Don't let it pass. I changed lanes, trying to control the situation. The lights changed with me, staying directly behind. I sped up. They sped up. I slowed down. They slowed down. Exactly matched, like a reflection. The breathing sound under the radio grew louder. I turned the radio off again. It turned back on. The voice sounded annoyed now. Stop doing that. My hands shook on the wheel. Leave me alone. The voice chuckled. We're already with you. That's when I heard it. A soft scrape. From inside the trailer. A sound like something dragging across metal. My blood turned to ice. My trailer was sealed. It was supposed to be empty except for freight. The scrape came again. Slow. Patient. Like something moving around back there, waiting for the right moment. The voice on the radio said, It wants to ride in front. Headlights behind me flared brighter, as if the vehicle was right on my bumper now. And then the voice said something that made my stomach drop. Let it pass, and it will show you where the road ends. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The scrape inside the trailer stopped. Then came 3 heavy thumps, like someone knocking from the inside. My breath caught. I whispered, No, no. The voice softened, almost kind. Don't worry. It's only curious. The headlights behind me shifted. They moved to the left lane. They were going to pass. Panic surged. I swerved slightly, blocking them. The truck behind corrected smoothly, sliding back. The voice laughed quietly. You're learning. The breathing in the cab grew louder, and I realized with horror. It matched my own breathing. Like something was breathing with me. I forced myself to focus on the road, eyes stinging. The desert stretched endless ahead. No exits. No lights. Just darkness and stars. The radio voice said, In 1 mile, you will see a sign. When you see it, don't read it out loud. My skin crawled. What? The voice didn't respond. A minute later, my headlights caught a roadside sign. It was old, weathered, and the reflective surface looked scratched. As I got closer, I saw the words. They didn't make sense at first. Just letters. Then my brain put them together. Welcome home. I felt a cold wave roll through me. Because I knew deep down that I wasn't anywhere near home. The voice whispered, Don't say it. My lips parted without thinking. My tired brain wanted to repeat it, like reading helps you understand. I caught myself at the last second, biting the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. I drove past without speaking. The voice sighed, disappointed. Fine. The headlights behind me surged forward again, trying to pass. I blocked them again, heart hammering. The radio voice turned cold. If you don't let it pass, it will find another way. The trailer thumped again, harder. Then the cab lights flickered. For a split second, the inside of my cab went dark. In that darkness, something touched my shoulder. A hand? Cold and light, like a leaf brushing skin. I stiffened, not daring to move. The lights came back on. My passenger seat was no longer empty. A shape sat there. Not fully visible. More like a silhouette made of darker darkness. But I could feel it. I could feel it looking at me. The voice on the radio whispered, satisfied. Now it's inside. My throat tightened. I couldn't breathe right. The silhouette leaned slightly toward me. And I heard, not from the radio, but directly beside my ear. Let me drive. I don't remember making the decision. I just acted. I slammed the brakes and swerved onto the shoulder, tires kicking dust. The headlights behind me flew past, finally passing, and for a moment I saw what was behind them. Nothing. No vehicle. Just two floating headlights sliding down the road, like eyes in the dark. The moment they passed, the silhouette in my passenger seat vanished. The radio went silent. No static. No station. Just dead air. I sat there shaking, hands locked on the wheel, staring into the road ahead as dust settled. When I finally got the courage to move again, I drove until sunrise. I didn't turn the radio on once. But later that day, when I stopped for fuel and turned the truck off, my radio turned on by itself. And in the dead quiet of the cab, a calm voice said, "Good driving, Zohaib Khalid. We'll talk again soon." Which story scared you the most? Comment below and subscribe for more true horror stories.